Making modern propaganda will scale your business to 8 figures. And I've proven it by taking multiple clients to $10 million per year in revenue using these exact strategies. Now, you've probably heard the term propaganda and maybe even think it's something negative or manipulative. But you see, that's where most business owners, they get it completely wrong. Propaganda, it's propagating a thought or an idea into somebody's mind. And when it's done right, it's the most powerful scaling mechanism on the planet. So I'm about to reveal to you the two types of propaganda that sophisticated marketers use to get prospects to buy so you can finally break through your revenue ceiling and join that 8-figure club. So let's dive right in. How 8-figure businesses use propaganda. Now, you first have to understand what is propaganda. So in simple terms, it's just propagating a thought or idea into someone's mind. Now, it does not have to be dark or manipulative, as I already mentioned. You see, it's a very powerful force. I mean, so powerful, it literally gets countries and the world at war. Imagine what, when used properly, it can do for your business. So the business type of propaganda that we talk about is really getting people into a buying frame of mind. So that's the goal with us. It's not to start anything negative, no wars. We're not about that on this channel. We're all about peace, love, and making lots of money. But that's the overall understanding of propaganda, putting strategic thoughts and ideas into somebody's mind, and then getting these people with these ideas into a place where they want to buy and do a transaction with you. So that's as simple as it is. Now, in order to start using this, you have to understand you have direct. So this is going to be like in your face, very direct, addressing very specific claims that are going on in the market. It's great for handling objections and any pain points that you might get in your sales process. Think of it like this. You're addressing the elephant in the room, except you're controlling the narrative of how people think and consider what that elephant is. So if competitors are spreading possible misinformation, or you're trying to break into a market where certain competitors dominate, you want to definitely control that narrative. So think of the telehealth weight loss market, very competitive. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. You can counter a lot of those claims by saying something along the lines of this: are you tired of cookie cutter weight loss approaches? Here's exactly why our telehealth service is different, and then list those things out. You're planting the ideas. People who don't want this one-size-fits-all approach, they want something customized to them. Or if there's another common objection around telehealth, like, well, weight loss through a telehealth business doesn't work that well. So you stack up that proof. 98% of our customers lose weight and hit their goals within the first 3 months. Now, direct propaganda, this works best when you're addressing very specific misinformation or very specific pains, claims, or objections that your sales teams might be experiencing. You need to establish authority very quickly, and you need to create some urgency through FOMO or other tactics to create urgency. Now, the second type of propaganda is going to be indirect. So the indirect propaganda, it's going to be a little bit more subtle and more of a psychological play. We need people to buy into certain ideas that our ideal clients already believe, because with indirect, we're really trying to funnel people who aren't already in market into what it is that we do. For example, there's a influencer, she's got an info product and she's got a very niche market that she really sells to, but she does an incredible job at planting these ideas into people's minds that she continues to do to the point where you're like, I actually need to do this thing that she teaches people how to do. And you would have never thought it, but because of these very strategic and subtle ideas that she's constantly reinforcing in the market, she's able to funnel all these people in through indirect propaganda. You're really planting ideas, shaping perceptions, and influencing decisions without being overt. So for this particular person, she's got an info product. She sells people on the idea of boring businesses. Now, if all her content was very direct, it would be around boring businesses, which most business owners do. Now, think of what's a bigger market: people who want to buy a boring business, or people who want to make money, people who want to own a business. It doesn't have to be a business. I mean, I never even considered a boring business. I didn't even know what the heck a boring business was until I saw this person's content. And what she does is she's a master at telling people to really go broad. Like, she'll go very broad, and business owners are about to have the largest transition of wealth in the history of the world. And if you're not ready for this transition, you're gonna miss out on lots of money that's very easy to be made. And the easiest way that this money's made is through these boring businesses. Very indirect. She captured this large audience, got them to engage through strategic content, and then buy into this idea that a boring business was the vehicle for the transfer of wealth that's happening. Other ways, Nike, they do an incredible job at this. They're very aspirational. Just do it. They're showing these hyper athletes, but I mean, how many people buy Nikes? Like, actually, people, it's crazy. Like, half the people that wear Nikes don't even work out at all. They just like Nike shoes. But it's the aspiration of what they want you to believe and the mindset that they want you to have when you buy a pair of Nikes. So that's an example of indirect. Storytelling is going to be great for this. Telling stories about people. Nike does that in a lot of their marketing ideas, actually, is they're telling stories about Michael Jordan or these great athletes or great aspirational people. For a telehealth business, you can really showcase social proof. Over 10,000 patients transformed, or really document somebody's lifestyle of what it's like when they lose the weight. Now, when does indirect work the best? It works the best when you're building trust and rapport. So I use more indirect on our top of funnel. Generally, it's going to be more top of funnel and middle of funnel content, right? Again, with direct propaganda, we're handling objections. We're in your face. It's directly about pain points. Again, these people would be considered in market. Somebody like, oh, I heard semaglutide doesn't work. Well, they already know what semaglutide is. But the indirect ideas is losing over 100 pounds is one of the healthiest things you could do. It's also one of the most challenging things that you could do. But thanks to modern science, there's a new medication that celebrities have been using for years behind the scenes without any adverse effects. And if you're interested in this breakthrough prescription medication, we're taking 10 consults with a doctor to see if you qualify for this medication. Now, we planted an indirect idea of how celebrities look a certain way, and we captured them with somebody who was very direct messaging, or very indirect messaging with somebody, but it looped in somebody who wanted to lose 100 pounds. So you have to understand, I think, where they're at. So when you're building the trust and rapport, when you're top of funnel, middle of funnel content, this is going to be feeding people to trust us, to know us, and to like us. And this is generally going to be for cold audiences. Now, we create all this indirect content ideas. We'll analyze the market. The first thing we're going to do is research, learn. We'll look up company reviews. We'll read transcripts of the sales team. We'll get feedback from the customers, and then we're going to learn, and then we're going to know what type of content we need to create. So top of funnel content, again, is going to be more indirect. The direct stuff, this is where a lot of businesses are missing out, because if you just think about how much traffic you convert, 2% maybe of your funnel, of all the leads that opt in, how much are you actually converting of that? Most businesses that we see run ads, I mean, they're lucky if they're converting 5%. I never have anybody talk to me that's converting like 10% or higher. Why? Because if they're converting 10%, most likely they're making money off their ads at that point. So what I like to do is I like to solve the problem that exists. We're already getting traffic, so the direct propaganda is going to be the most impactful to most businesses, and especially service type businesses. So the four main types of propaganda that we're going to create for our clients. So number one is going to be questions. And what you can do is literally, if you have your calls transcribed, you can literally run all of those through AI and say, make a list of every question that happens and break them down by order of frequency. So price is going to be one of the most common objections. How do I get started? Is it going to hurt? Like we do a lot of like telehealth businesses, service-based businesses. What do I need to do? What's the time commitment on this? So make a list of all the questions that your prospects are already asking your sales teams. You want to answer these up front and be very direct. Again, these are questions that are already being asked. So if we can just answer all these questions up front, guess what? People are a lot more likely to show to your appointments, show to your calls, pick up the phone, and they're more willing to spend money. Some other questions might be what's included in the program, and you want to create strategic pieces of content around this in your ads, in your retargeting content, on your funnels, and then through your email. So there's a lot of types of propaganda content that we lean into, not just advertising. And just think of this, like what we've seen is our sales cycles, they generally, once we take over campaigns, this is especially for service-based businesses. So if you're like an agency or you sell some type of service, mortgage, real estate, wholesale, info products, what we see is the sales cycle, the time that's spent with a salesperson, it gets cut like literally in half. Because just think of how many times your salesperson is answering these questions. Like they get these questions every single day, like multiple times a day. Why not just create a strategic piece of content content that we get this person to consume before. Now that salesperson never has to answer that question again. So these are, you're going to use in your ads, you're going to use in retargeting. Again, I already mentioned these, but I'm just going to write them out for you to see. Strategically on the funnel, and then emails. Now, you got your second layer questions. In most offers, like answering one question, it's not really enough. It triggers some additional questioning that comes from that. That's what we'd call second layer questions. And your ability to anticipate these questions, it shows your knowledge, your experience. It really builds a lot of trust in your prospect. So if they ask price, the second question would be like, is there a payment plan? If they ask, well, what kind of results can I see? The second question would be like, how soon until I see these results, right? So these are the second layer questions that are very common. Again, list out all the questions essentially that your sales teams are being asked. So here's the thing with the second layer questions is once you ask that first question, like it's not done. By answering these second layer questions, it shows to the prospect that you actually are providing significant value to them and service to them. It shows that you're solving, not selling. And that's the goal of business, is provide value. So if we're solving these problems for these prospects or clients, now we're able to demonstrate that through propaganda content. The third type is going to be objections. So objections, they're inevitable. Again, it's a lot of what a sales conversation is around. Since we've implemented these in our clients, I mean, like, it's not that objections don't happen. It's just very rare because we're so direct that people know they've seen 20, 30 pieces of content to get to the salesperson. They know exactly what is going on. Now it's more of a logistical question of when is this within budget, which that's like, if they believe in everything else, like price is a pretty straightforward, it's like either a yes or no. I never understood like all these sales gurus who like don't like to reveal price because, like I want to buy this car here. I'm going to know what the price is before I go. Like they don't have to like withhold the price and be like, come in and talk with us and do this deep discovery. And like, that just doesn't work. Not when you're selling to rich people. And when you're selling to like mass marketed, maybe there might be some reasons for mass marketed, but when you're selling to rich people and you're asking for thousands of dollars or, a mid-ticket offer, hundreds to thousands of dollars. I mean, when have you not known the price of something? So you want to have all these objections that they have up front. This is too expensive, right? Is a very common objection. So what you would create a piece of content around this is why our program pays for itself in 30 days, right? So if you had an info product, that's exactly what that was going to be around. Weight loss would be like why our programs are actually or people call a zero cost program. Well, you lose all this weight and you eat less. So yeah, you have to pay for medication, but the amount of food savings that you have is greater than the cost of the medication itself. So it's really a zero cost medication. So a lot of these objections, they're just unspoken fears that we are revealing up front. Oftentimes people are afraid that they're going to get burned again. That's very common, whether they've invested in a course or a program. I've already tried this. It's not going to work for me. That's an unspoken fear that they have. That's one of the biggest forms of resistance that we see in the market. So you want to highlight what makes us different from every other program out there. And then number 4 is going to be expectations. So we do a lot of these on the funnel and in the emails. This is simply what we need from them to succeed. So here's exactly what I expect from you to succeed. If you were running like an info product and it did require some level of commitment, what I would put on that is in the ad, I would loop in like, this is not for everybody, or this is only for business owners or entrepreneurs or whoever it is. Another expectation, who are able to commit at least 3 to 4 hours per week, because you have to set that expectation up front and you need to set the tone with them or these sales aren't going to convert. So how can you immediately start using propaganda content? The number one most important thing you're going to want to do is sit down with your sales team. For us, when we take over a new offer, we're going to analyze all their transcripts. Those are going to be good. We're going to pull all the questions, objections, everything. We're going to pull it all out and we're going to write down what it is, the frequency of what those are. And then we're also going to have weekly calls with the sales team until we have very clear messaging, marketing, everything's 100% dialed in end to end. We know exactly who we're targeting, exactly the type of business. Like for example, an agency that I did some consulting on, they were struggling to get qualified people. And I looked at what their audience was and understood who their ideal client was. And what we found out was they were doing messaging that was targeting the wrong people. So we adjusted the messaging and we were very specific in the call out because we learned from the sales team team who their favorite clients were. Well, they have a crew of 3 to 4 members. Okay, now I know. If you're a roofing company and you have a crew of 3 to 4 members, we're going to show you how our system helps you get to the #1 ranked spot on Google in 30 days or less, and how business owners just like you are adding an extra 5, 10 jobs every single month. Very different message that goes out, which stops different people and gets different people into the pipeline. So sit down with your sales team, get a good understanding. It should only be about a 2 to 3 week process of really getting that tight knit feedback loop before you can really start scaling pretty aggressively on some of these campaigns. If you're not getting transcripts, make sure to start recording so you can. You're going to want to document every objection that comes up. My sales team, they do highlights on the calls so that we know exactly where the objections are, so we can actually see how it comes out on the call. And then now you take this and this becomes your content calendar. A few things to keep in mind. If you're selling high ticket, people need about 10 to 15 impressions or touch points to convert. Why your ads probably don't work or didn't work or the quality wasn't there is generally people will run an ad like this. Hey, if you're looking to learn how to make money with reference boring business, if you want to learn how boring businesses are the best business model ever, I'm having a webinar, sign up for my webinar. And then they get that one opt-in. Again, it was only targeting people in market. They didn't have any indirect messaging, any indirect propaganda going on. And then that's it. Now they're just relying on like reminder sequences to then get people to show to this. It's like that doesn't get people to show to appointments. Value gets people to show. People show to my calls because they know I'm going to provide so much value if they show. Even if I don't take them on as a client, they're going to be in a better position just from showing to my call with me. That's value. And I express that through all of my content, through my emails, through everything. If somebody wants to book a call with me, they show to these appointments for that reason. So we hit them with the 10 to 15 touch points. Each piece of propaganda content, look at it as one touch point. So really what we need is we want to have about like 5 to 10 really converting direct response traditional ads, but then we want these 10 to 15 indirect or direct propaganda pieces that are going to help move and advance the sale forward. Now, I know this sounds easy, but creating propaganda content, it's just one piece of the puzzle to scaling to 8 figures. And there's a complete system that combines propaganda content with the right scaling systems. It's what I've been using with my clients to generate massive results. Check out this video right here where I show you my exact process for how I scaled this business to over $10 million per year with propaganda marketing and the step-by-step framework that you can use to scale your business to 8 figures. Now, if you want to work with me, knock out that application below, send me a DM on Instagram. I'm very active on there. You can communicate with me, get a little bit of a vibe check because we're going to be working together very closely. So you want to like the marketing people that you're working with, the team that you're working with, and drop any comments if you have any.